In its short life, the Tasmania Tomorrow education change faced tough criticism from teachers, unions, politicians and some parents. There were glitches in its implementation and then it got caught up in the state election campaign. In the end, the critics won and a new parliament voted to abolish it. Fiona Breen spoke to a number of people involved in the system who are lamenting its demise and say early indications are that many elements were successful.
November is a testing time for senior secondary students in more ways than one. 7,000 grade 11 and 12 students have been sitting TCE exams. When students return next year, their days as guinea pigs in the new Tasmania Tomorrow senior secondary revamp will be over. Tasmania has long suffered low retention rates, the worst in the country for senior secondary students. When David Bartlett became Education Minister, he made it his first priority to fix it. He was Premier by the time it was implemented.
By the end of this year, I can assure you that we will have had one of the very best years in post-year 10 enrolments and retention ever in Tasmania's history.
Tasmania Tomorrow saw local colleges divided. Students with university aspirations attended the academies, while those pursuing vocational training went to polytechnics. But the Premier's pet project was beset by controversy and industrial unrest from the start, particularly in the polytechnics. It was propelled into the centre of a divisive election campaign, and Tasmania Tomorrow became a mark of difference between the parties.
Underpinning that political, it was clearly industrial, and there were clearly a small but very, very forceful group of teachers who did not want change and put the role of the teachers ahead of that of the long-term future of education in the state.
The chair of the academy, Kim Boyer, says the picture of a kayaker paddling upstream in their annual general report is how she often felt over the past 2 years. The passionate educator and her team of board members believe the academies were on the cusp of major positive change when the Greens and the Liberals, in the aftermath of the election, voted together to abolish the system.
The reformers were there to address a major issue, and somehow that major issue about lack of educational retention and lack of educational attainment got lost in the political debate. And I think sadly we were a victim of the negotiations that had to occur in terms of forming government. So in that case it was political.
As she laments the end, Kim Boyer cites early positive figures across the 5 academy campuses.
In our first year, our TCE scores went up enormously. We moved from 6 students to 16 students being in the top 100 from the 4 first campuses. We had the average median score, which is the average score of the sort of 50% of students, moving up considerably and becoming well above the whole of state average.
The first Tasmanian Academy annual report shows across the campuses 61% of grade 12 students achieved their TCE, compared to the state average of 38%.
Our Academy one was unashamedly aiming at the high-level TCE, and we actually managed in our first year to move students to a far higher level of attainment than they had from those same campuses, mixed campuses, prior to our first year of operation.
While researchers say it's too early to tell properly, early indications also suggest retention rates were improving.
We had something like a 96% retention of students who started year 11 or started year 12 in that year actually staying on. Usually it had been around 89%. 90%.
While there are many who speak highly of the academies, the polytechnics have come in for the most criticism. Kathryn Thomas became interim chair of the Polytechnic after Michael Vertiken quit in frustration in May, amid the uncertainty created by the threatened rollback of Tasmania Tomorrow. Kathryn Thomas admits the sheer scope of the changes made it tough going.
Change is hard. Significant transformation, which is what this was, is harder. Doing a significant transformation over a short period of time with minimal resources was fraught.
despite the controversies, she's championing its success.
This year alone within the Polytechnic, our enrolments have increased 20% between February and August.
However, there's still no figures to show if those students enrolled over the past 2 years were retained for the duration of their courses.
That's more difficult because a lot of our learners make changes from day one until when they qualify. Some of them get jobs along the way, some of them change courses, some of them move from the academy to the Polytechnic and vice versa. So it's much more difficult to measure their retention within our system because they make legitimate career choices.
The Tasmania Tomorrow institutions had another battle on their hands from day one, which made things even tougher. The global financial crisis saw budgets shrink across the public service. The transitional money promised to support change never arrived.
We had a major issue about trying to do a really exciting new challenge with virtually no money.
New projects and planned developments had to be put off.
What we've had to do is not actually undertake a number of the investments in infrastructure, for example, like distance education and video conferencing to district high school campuses, those sorts of things that could have made all sorts of differences and will have to in the future make significant differences in the same way as university uses that sort of technology too as a key part of its teaching.
Kathryn Thomas admits the budgets were tight.
Lack of resources is always a problem, and significant resources means that we could have done more and more quickly. We have managed within the constraints that we've got, and the results speak for themselves.
The outgoing Vice-Chancellor of the University of Tasmania, Darryl LeGrew, is another who feels the demise of the new system was premature. He saw Tasmania Tomorrow as a way to boost university enrolments. For the university, dealing with the individual Tasmania Tomorrow boards proved more practical than dealing with individual campuses.
We didn't expect there to be any marked change in the first 2 or 3 years, but rather we're looking forward to 5-10 years out as being having strengthened the relationship, having encouraged more people to aspire to the university and look to improve the Tasmanian participation rate in education generally up to year 12, but also to look beyond year 12 and to say, okay, well, the university is an option for me. That was what we were looking for, and I think there was some evidence that we were getting there.
Many academics agree abandoning the Tasmania Tomorrow model after only 2 years was too quick, and most believe it was forced by the divisive political environment. These students' results will give a better picture of the success of Tasmania Tomorrow in improving academic performance and retention rates. The soon-to-be abolished boards of the Academy and Polytechnic are hopeful the best elements of the Tasmania Tomorrow experiment will be kept.
We are disappointed not to see it through. We were all committed for 3 years. We're disappointed to end up after 2, but very hopeful of the Polytechnic and its future.
I think that there are a range of things that I would have loved to have finished. I would have loved to have had 5 years and then said, yes, it worked, or no, it didn't.